J. McTighe and Grant Wiggins recognized that a primary goal of education should be the development and deepening of student understanding. Years of research led them to develop the Understanding by Design framework. UBD helps teachers design curriculum units, performance assessments, and instruction that leads students to deeper understanding of the content being taught. In working with teachers and schools on UBD, Jay and Grant found that one part was ripe for further exploration: the essential question, a way for teachers to frame content and deepen student understanding.
An essential question is a question that we want students to consider over and over about important issues or ideas at the heart of some curricular unit or course of study or program.
Open-ended, thought-provoking, require higher-order thinking and reasoning, not recall. They need to be supported, not just an answer given. These are questions that we revisit again and again, and in exploring essential questions, we spark new questions and inquiries. And we can therefore judge questions according to those criteria.
What makes a question essential is if it's truly at the essence.
How does sound affect life?
It's at the core of some issue or argument or problem or approach or strategy.
About, is America a land of opportunity?
That by asking the question, if the question is truly essential, it's one that helps us make sense out of confusing things. Who sees and who is blind and why? And it's something that we can keep asking and returning to as a way of making sure that we're understanding.
So in summary, we can say an essential question is a question that explores timeless philosophical matters. We can think of an essential question as more focused around disciplines. It's essential to understanding the disciplines. And we can think of essential questions as helping students better understand themselves as learners and reflect on their learning and their experiences.
And how did this artist use line to communicate sadness?
So let's talk a little bit about what you guys gleaned from these sources.
What was the ultimate goal? You were supposed to do what to your fraction?
Conventional teaching and learning is too focused on kids learning stuff. And the questions, therefore, that a teacher tends to ask are very low-level factual questions.
There's typically too much content to teach and not enough time to teach it all well. The essential question, in fact, can focus teaching. It can serve as a prioritizing filter. So rather than feeling that we have to cover all this content material, often in a superficial way, the essential questions causes educators and teachers to say, what is really essential here? What is most important? What do I want kids to really understand? And how can I frame my teaching around the most important things? So focusing on a few essential questions helps us focus and prioritize our teaching.
We want the students to consider more challenging, interesting questions, and we want them to engage in higher order thinking, and we want them to engage in sustained inquiry. Well, that's the point of an essential question. The question signals that we want inquiry, that we want in-depth, not superficial answers, that there isn't one way to look at it, that it's worth asking and re-asking, because that's how in-depth learning and genuine understanding occurs.
How do artists create feeling or mood in a work of art?
So we've established why essential questions are important, but how do you generate essential questions that are really strong? And how do you put those EQs into action?
A lot of people have trouble generating essential questions, in part because they're so used to asking leading questions that they want students to know the answer to or to recall. And so the most basic way to start, if you're really struggling, is to think of questions that adults argue about, think about, don't come to any easy resolution about, as a way of getting in the groove, as it were, of such questions.
One way of refining essential questions is to ask a question of the question. Can I Google the answer? Is there an expected answer to this? And if so, the question becomes, can we make it more open-ended?